Welcome, everyone. It is so fun to see so many faces, to see so many of you who I haven't seen in a while, and some of you who I just got to see at our donor reception recently. So we're really excited to just kind of hold this town hall to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing for the past year, what you guys have helped us do, and then tell you some of our future plans for the next year. So before we officially go into things, I just want to go over some Zoom stuff. I know we're all experts at Zoom at this point, but just a couple tips for this presentation. So we are going to have your mics muted just so that we can hear the speakers without any background noise. We'll have a Q&A session at the end. And so at that point, you can feel free to unmute your mics and ask questions. If you want to just view the speaker during the presentation, you can set your screen into active speaker view. There should be a little box with a couple different icons up in the top left. And if you click on the second box in, it's just one single box, not the flat line, not the two boxes, but right in the middle. You'll be able to see it in active speaker view. Our Q&A session is going to be moderated by Madeline, who is our newest employee. You can just drop any questions. If you don't want to unmute yourself and talk, you can just drop any questions that you have, even throughout the presentation in the chat. And I believe she's named Madeline Ingram, Rock Recovery. Madeline, do you want to say hi really quickly to everyone?
Hi, it's good to see you all. Thanks for coming.
We are really excited to just have Madeline on this team. She's been doing some great work with us over the past almost year. So yeah, and then we have a couple board members too. If any of our board members want to say hi, Carrie jumped in for a minute and she's on our call. She's our founder and board president. Carrie, I don't know if you want to say hi really quickly.
I can say hi, I think. I don't know that I can do a visual, but that's okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Carrie. Carrie just came back from playing tennis. So we're really glad that she made the time to join us. And then we also have, I think I saw Marianne is on. She is one of our new board members. Crystal, I think Anissa Green is on as well, and Yolanda Taylor are all on the call. So I don't know if you guys want to wave or say hi really quickly. We're just really glad that you could be here, and lots of representation from our new board members, which is really exciting. So yeah, and then yeah, that's it. So send any questions that you have to Madeline in the chat, or at the end when we kind of announce it's time for Q&A, you can feel free to unmute yourselves and talk to them. And so tonight, it'll be myself speaking on some of the program things and covering some of the information about what we've done in this past year. And then our wonderful executive director, Christy, who is of course on this call, is going to be talking a little bit about what we have planned for the future and presenting on some of the financial information as well. All right, and so to kick things off, I just want to talk a little bit about what ROC does for those of you who are on here who may not know what our organization does. So we are a nonprofit. We're based in Arlington, Virginia, and we help bridge critical gaps in eating disorder treatment. And so we offer clinical programs, community services, and faith support services. And all of these programs are designed to help people. We serve adolescents 14 and up with our support groups, and adults 18 and up with our clinical programs. And they're designed to help people get connected to the care that they need. We really work to remove barriers to treatment that people often experience, which include financial barriers, accessibility, and isolation. And so our programs are designed to connect people to community, and we offer sliding scale for everything that we do so that finances are never a barrier to care. And we're able to do this with the support of our incredible community like you guys. So thank you for helping to make this work possible. And then I will let Christy kick things off with some of our highlights.
Great. So for those of you who don't know, we run our fiscal year, not that you know this about us, but our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. That's why we often get to say our year in review, and you're like, but it's not January, like I don't understand your calendar. But we just wrapped up our fiscal year back in June, and so we've been busy compiling some reports, running some data, and we just actually finished our first ever audit last week, which was a success, and we're very excited about that. But we do like to take a step back at the end of our fiscal year and just review what we've done and kind of think about and dream what's ahead. So thanks for being with us tonight to be able to do all of those things. We'll start with the big exciting number. We doubled the amount of clients we serve, guys. Spoiler alert, that's a lot of growth. So we had a 200% increase in the number of clinical clients we served and also face support clients. Like Kristen said, we have really two main recovery programs where we serve people directly: our clinical groups, our therapy groups, and then our face support programs. So that's kind of what we talk back and forth about. We had a new full-time staff member, Madeline, the lovely Madeline, who already introduced herself. So that was really exciting for us. We also lost a full-time staff member because she had a very cute baby and decided to stay home more full-time. So she's just back part-time, but we are looking to replace her soon. But we've still grown as a team, which is exciting. And then in addition to doubling, we've actually more than doubled our program applications and inquiries. So you might remember this from our last town hall, but the first quarter of when COVID first hit back in March 2020, we had a 400% increase in people reaching out to us for help. It's still steady, but it has slowed to 260%. So, you know, we're not at 400% anymore. We're like, our hair isn't totally on fire, but it's smoking. It's very close to being on fire. So we're still really busy and really able to reach a lot more people with our expanded program capacity. A lot of that is because of the virtual programs that we continue to run that will now be run forever virtually. And then the new programs we've restarted back in person, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But because of the increase in applications, we've also really worked hard to increase our clients served and hoping to help more clients in the year to come. And then we also served an additional 100 clients. So some of you might remember a couple of years ago, we hit a really big milestone of serving our 100th client. And that first 100 clients, I think, if I'm remembering my math correctly, took us about 7 years, but we served 200 clients in a matter of 1 year and 100 new clients through our face support services, which really were born out of COVID because that allowed us to virtually reach people nationwide and even worldwide in different countries. So it's been a busy year and an exciting year and lots of highlights of growth. So here are our three programs. Again, Kristen and I mentioned this briefly. We've been running weekly virtual and now in-person programs here in Arlington, Virginia. We restarted 2 clinical groups back, I guess it's only October, this month. We just kind of restarted them, I think a few weeks, actually last month and then this month. So we're back in person for our 2 main meal support and our body image therapy groups back in person in Arlington, which has been wonderful. And then we still have our virtual programs running in California, Virginia, and DC as well. We've been able to do a few things in person with virtual trainings, with community events, workshops, and clinical training. So mostly virtual these days still, but we have a CE event, a clinical event tomorrow for our clinical community. And we have a lot of great church workshops on the books. We've done some great corporate education workshops in the last year and continue to book those out to keep reaching the community. And then, like I mentioned, thanks to COVID, our face support services have really grown significantly in this last year and a half, because what used to take place at mostly local churches with 8 or 10 people at a time are now able to be up to 20 people virtually, where we can split into 2 different groups via Zoom. And we're able to reach people all across the nation and the world. And so those have been going really well and continue to grow. So these are the 3 little focus areas. We've really tightened up who we are and who we serve and what we've been able to do. And we mentioned earlier that the need for our services has desperately grown. And the good news is we're able to serve more people more quickly. But what's interesting about our need growing, we had some really great media highlights that Kristen will tell you about later. But because of that, people now know about us in places beyond the DC metro area. For a really long time, we were a hyper-local organization really serving DC metro only. We still love DC metro. It's still our home base. And yet we're looking at expanding because of virtual services and because the need is so great in other places. We're working really hard this year and the years to come to continue to expand outside of our region and also within our region. And we really just see our programs are really unique. No other nonprofits do the combination of clinical and spiritual support that we do. And it's very rare that nonprofits offer sliding scale treatment for people. A lot of times there's great support groups and great education going on, but the treatment is really unique to be able to be accessed by people affordably. And being a nonprofit, that's really our main goal. So that's one thing that makes us really unique, is that we really work to remove those barriers that keep people from getting care because they either don't have insurance or their insurance won't cover mental health or some other barrier similarly. So a fancy chart just to show you our growth here. So over these last 5 years, you can see we've more than doubled in a lot of ways our client capacity. The green chart is our face support programs, and the purple chart is our clinical programs. So you can see with our face support programs I mentioned, those were previously all done in person, which is why there was like a dip one year because we were real popular with a few local churches, and then went down a little bit and then went back up, but it still went up to over 100 clients in last fiscal year. And then with our clinical programs, there's been a very steady increase over these last 5 years as we've been able to scale and as we've been able to grow our program reach and hire more staff and help more clients week to week. That's just really slowly and steadily scaled. And there was a very big jump once COVID hit. So between FY 18-19 and FY 19-20, and then this past fiscal year. So we'll talk a little bit about finances and staffing later, but you can just see we've really figured out what we're doing, and with virtual services, it's been really wonderful to scale. And we're excited about now that we have this proven program, we have the program evaluation, we have the data, we know what works, and we just want to go reach more people who need it. Here are some stats as far as how many people we know are really struggling with disordered eating and eating disorders. So an estimated 28.8 million Americans will have an eating disorder in their lifetime. Based on my really unofficial studies of talking to people on airplanes and at parties prior to COVID, I think this is drastically underestimated. However, this is still almost 10% of the population. So you know, a lot more people struggle with dieting and disordered eating and other pieces that aren't necessarily always diagnosed, but at least about 10% of the population will have an eating disorder at some point in their lifetime. And there still is mental health stigma. There still are a lot of barriers that keep people from getting the help that they need, unfortunately. And with COVID, we have found that there are more conversations happening around mental health and mental wellness and eating disorders. And yet there's still these misconceptions sometimes that we're working really hard to break, and really helping people get connected to the care that they need, so those barriers can't keep them from being well. And the scary thing about eating disorders is that they have a high mortality rate for a mental illness. So it's estimated that about 10,000 people die per year as a direct result of their eating disorder. So that is something that is super significant. A lot of people struggle with other comorbid issues such as suicidality and depression or anxiety and other mental health challenges as well. But this is a deadly disorder, and while recovery really is possible, it's also truly a very serious illness and disease. And unfortunately, eating disorders don't discriminate in a way I kind of wish they did. So we could just really focus on that one specific person or population, but people of all backgrounds really can struggle with disordered eating. And depending on the background, unfortunately, there might be more barriers to care because of misconceptions or mental health stigma that keep people from getting help. All genders struggle with eating disorders, but people who identify as female are more likely to struggle with an eating disorder. And then people, all races struggle with eating disorders. However, people of color, unfortunately, who struggle are only half as likely to be diagnosed or to receive treatment. So we're trying to focus on that a lot to help people get educated and get connected to the help that they need more quickly, because early intervention is one of the highest indicators of full recovery. So that's something that we're really passionate about. So just something to remember, that really people of all backgrounds and beliefs can be struggling with this, and you might not know it because it's not always something that comes up in conversation, but unless you're with me at a dinner party, and then it might come up. But something just to keep in mind, that this is something that really affects a lot of people.
And so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of the programs that Christy mentioned. We really have been streamlining things. in this past year, that there was an incredible need, especially with COVID, where things really spiked. And so because of that need, there was also a need for us to really move quickly to switch to virtual quickly, to rapidly grow our programs. And so in the past couple of months, we've really just been focusing on streamlining things and figuring out how Rock can continue to grow and serve people across the nation. And so we have 3 clinical programs that we offer, and we do this both virtually and in person. And so the first is our Breaking Bread meal support. And this is the group that Rock has had from the beginning of time. It's a weekly 2-hour meal support and therapy processing group. And so for the first hour, clients will, the therapist will eat a meal with the client, and clients will focus on just really working to heal their relationship with the food in that part. And so they'll talk about things like hungerfulness. A lot of times when people struggle with eating disorders, it creates a sense of detachment from knowing your body's cues, from being able to tell when you're full or when you're hungry. And so clients will sit with the meal and really just try to think about what their body's telling them. They'll oftentimes set an intention for the meal. And so sometimes it'll be centered around finishing a certain portion of the meal or leaving a certain portion of the meal, depending on what they're struggling with. That's one thing about our programs. We do serve people with a variety of eating disorders. In the group setting. And so, and then other times the intention will focus on things like just enjoying the meal and not necessarily thinking about what they're eating, or to enjoy being in a social setting with other people. And so then in the second part of the group, the therapist will lead a directive that often focuses on recovery and building practical tools and skills to ensure that they're leaving the group eventually with solid recovery and solid coping strategies. And so that is our Breaking Bread program. We have that virtually in Virginia right now, and our newest group in person at our office space in Arlington. And then our next clinical group is our Bridge to Life body image group. And so this is a group that we've run since 2018. And this group really focuses on helping clients once they've moved past that meal support piece, and are eating a little bit more regularly and have worked on really developing a more healthy relationship with food, oftentimes things will come up around body image. And so that's what this group is designed to do, to really focus on helping clients heal their self-image, to focus on things that we often see that target self-image every day. And so there's discussion of social media and diet culture, and they talk about the intuitive eating principles. They talk about relationships and how those play into body images, work relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships. And so it's a weekly 90-minute processing group that really focuses on all these different components that can play into self-image. And then the newest offering that we have, which we started during COVID, I believe, is our sliding scale individual therapy services. And so one of the barriers to treatment that we've often seen in the past is that isolation piece. And so Rock was designed with the idea of groups in mind, but there is such a need for affordable individual treatment. And so that was a program that we started to offer, really because, like I said, we just saw a need for it. And so our Bridge to Life group is serving clients in Virginia and in California. And going back to the Breaking Bread group, that's also serving clients in DC as well. And then our individual therapy services are in DC, Virginia, and California. And then we have some clients coming to the office as well. And so some of the highlights for these programs are we provided more than 150 individuals and families with treatment referrals this year. And so we often get people, as Christy said, we're starting to get a little bit more recognition outside of the DC area. And so we often get people calling who are just desperate to get connected to care, whether they're experiencing barriers that are centered around finance, or they just don't know what's available in their area. And so our team really works to make sure that everyone who reaches out to us, whether they can get connected to care through Rock or not, is able to find a place that can serve them. So we will, ask people what their needs are. We'll do some research, and we'll work with our clinical partners. We have a lot of really great relationships with clinicians and with therapists and dietitians and treatment centers across the nation. And so we'll work with them to make sure that these people who are coming to us can get connected to the care that they need. And then during this last fiscal year, as Christy mentioned, we served over 100 clients with our clinical programs, more than doubling what we did last year, which was really exciting. We provided over 2,000 hours of therapy and held 576 virtual supportive meals, which meal support is already difficult enough for so many of our clients, but they were able to navigate so well and to do it virtually. And we have an amazing team of clinicians who was able to support them. And so it was really incredible just to see how well these programs continue to operate virtually. And we do have several clients who are excited that we're back in person. And then more than 75% of the clients that we are serving are on a 50% or higher sliding scale rate. And so all of our groups are offered at a low rate. 100% of the services that we provide are offered at an affordable rate for people, but we have clients who need additional financial support. And so over 75% of them are receiving more than a 50% reduced rate for the programs that we're in. And we're just really grateful to be able to remove that barrier and to offer that service to people. And then our newest kind of line of what we do at Rock is our faith support services. And so again, as Christy mentioned, these were born out of COVID. We just saw, again, an incredible need for people who were really looking for faith-based support. And so we've always offered optional spiritual care. We've always offered ways for people to get connected to faith-based resources. But in the last year, we've really been able to streamline what we provide to people and ensure that we're offering regular faith-based services to people that they can tap into every week, just like our clinical programs. And so we have 2 different monthly groups that we offer. We have a Coffee and Conversations for Moms group, which is a really special group that's designed to support moms at all stages of recovery who are trying to figure out how to navigate parenthood and just being a mom in recovery. And then we have a monthly parents and loved ones prayer group that's led by an incredible volunteer, Beth Ask, who's actually on with us tonight. And Beth does just a wonderful job of bringing these people together, every group, people who often have nowhere else to turn to when it comes to seeking specifically faith-based eating disorder support. I think we are actually only nonprofit in the nation to provide specifically faith-based eating disorder support for caregivers. So we were really excited to be able to offer this. And Beth always just gives us wonderful feedback on just how amazing the support is in that group. And then we also have our Set Free group, which is a weekly devotional group that meets every Thursday. We have 2 different groups that we offer on Thursday mornings. And it's just designed to provide accountability and support for people who want to integrate faith into the recovery process. And then we have 2 different support series that we offer. So a lot of our programs don't have a start or end date. Well, they have a start date, but they don't necessarily have an end date. Clients are just in the programs for as long as they need the support. But for some people, that can be really overwhelming, and they like to have that clean start and end date. And so we have 2 different 6-week series that we offer for people who want to get a deeper understanding of what it looks like to even start the recovery journey, or for some people, they've been in and out of treatment for years and just haven't found the support that they need. And so we're able to offer these series that focus on just diving deeper into understanding the eating disorder, understanding what it looks like to integrate faith into the recovery process, and then focusing on key aspects like body image and developing a healthy relationship with food in the body. And then our next group that we'll be running is a holiday series, which people get really excited about because food can be really hard around the holidays, and family, while wonderful, can also be really hard around the holidays. And so this group really focuses on helping people navigate food and family relationships. And so we run these support series on a quarterly basis, and it's just really nice to have something that people can always pour into around faith support. So in the last year, we were able to serve 101 individuals and families with our faith-based care, which was just really incredible to be able to do in 1 year, and to serve people across 5 different countries. We had people getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning their time to tap into this support. So, and we work with wonderful volunteers and program graduates and clinicians who come in and who help provide these support services. And so starting these groups was a major highlight for us. We really kind of pulled everything together and did a launch of all these services in April of 2021. And like I said, we're just really meeting an incredible need. I can't tell you how many times we got phone calls from people saying just how desperate they were to find these resources. So really, really exciting highlight of the last fiscal year was these groups. And then our community impact. We're always working to educate community members. And so this year we were able to educate over 1,700 community members through 27 different virtual events. And we are so grateful for you guys for hanging in through these virtual events. We still have people coming for resources. We've been able to connect with so many clinicians who are looking for eating disorder training through these virtual events. We held our first Building Bridges, which so many of you attended virtually. And so that was really exciting. It was so fun to see people and to connect with people through really unique ways with the breakout groups and things like that. And through that, we raised over $90,000, which is just under what we raised in person. So that was really, really incredible. And so we're constantly running different events on a monthly basis just to make sure that we're really working to eradicate some of that stigma that's out there and to get people connected to the care and resources that they need. And one of our stories that we highlighted this year, which if you got the annual report is in there, was Lizzie. Lizzie was so wonderful, and she spoke at our virtual wine tasting event and just shared a little bit about her story. There were some really big financial barriers with getting connected to treatment, and Lizzie started out at a higher level of care and then came to Rock really looking for that continued support, that continued accountability while she just stepped back down into navigating daily life. And she was able to find it through Rock, and she's doing really well. And she says, "I'm so thankful I found freedom from my eating disorder. Thank you to all of you donors and supporters who made my time at Rock possible. Treatment is incredibly expensive, and I struggled with covering the cost after insurance denied my care. I'm so thankful Rock removes these barriers to treatment." And so we were really excited to share her story. And then media highlights. Rock is always happy to talk about how eating disorders impact people and to spread awareness about this issue. And so Christy's done a lot of speaking, just highlighting Rock services and what we provide and how we connect people to treatment and how we connect people to resources. We also do a lot just really speaking on eradicating stigma around eating disorders, talking about how they affect people of all backgrounds, all ages. And so these were some of our highlights for this year. WUSA, WPER, and Verily, which is a local women's magazine that Christy is a contributing member of now on a monthly basis. And then our big one was the Today Show. We were so excited to get to connect with the Today Show and with Carson Daly to talk about this and to reach millions of people who need to get connected to services. And so Teresa, who is one of our incredible board members and one of our program alum, came and shared her story. We had several other people come and talk about their story. And it was just really, really beautiful to see these people come together and to spread the message that freedom is really possible. And so this was exciting for Rock. I'm sure you got so many emails about it. And if you haven't, I promise I will send you the link after we get through this presentation. So I'm going to turn it back over to Christy to talk a little bit about our financial review from last year.
I get the exciting slides, don't I? You get Carson Daly and I get a pie chart. Where's that fair? All right, so a little bit of our financial review from last year. So we were so close to $400,000, guys. We had $399,753 of revenue coming from a combination of wonderful, lovely people such as yourselves, making individual gifts, program service fees from our client payments, business sponsorships and contributions, event revenue from events that we held mostly online, grants and foundations, church partners, and then miscellaneous, because you never know. There's some money that comes from some other pieces of small events or small gifts or different government funding or small things here and there. So there definitely was a good variety of sources of income for us, but you'll see here that the vast majority of our funding does continue to come from generous individuals. There is not a lot of funding for eating disorders that we found in the foundation space. Kristen, I'm kind of noticing we're on the same language tonight. We are like eyeball deep into a 25-page grant that she's been working on for weeks. We've both been editing it today. I'm like, our language is on point with this grant. But we're hoping that as we grow and do more in the community and continue to kind of establish ourselves both here and nationwide, that we'll get more foundation and grant support. But a lot of our lovely, generous partners have helped us along the way. And this is a good snapshot of who those people are. And then as far as expenses, so the good news is we spend less than we earn. So that's, I don't know much about budgeting, guys, but I know that's a good way to have it. So we're always working on our reserves. So we had almost a $50,000 surplus because, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Like maybe a global pandemic will happen and you want a little bit of extra income in the bank for when things might become unpredictable or perhaps tricky. Krista mentioned our last in-person benefit dinner, which was February, I think, 28th, 2020. So it was literally weeks before the pandemic hit. And there were so many days as I was on the phone for 15 hours a day helping with calls from potential clients that I was like, at least we have money from that event 3 weeks ago. Like, at least we're not gonna all run out of our jobs. So that was amazing timing. And we're really excited to be back in person again, hopefully next year in March 2022 for our benefit dinner. So a little plug for that, March 19th, save the date for Building Bridges, Breaking Bread, the best night of the year. But as far as expenses go, the vast majority goes towards programs, of course. That is why we do this work that we do. So our largest expenditure is clinical recovery programs and services. A lot of that is therapist staff or contractor staff, food and supplies, different insurance, IT, and different infrastructure that we need to be able to do Zoom, to be able to do our programs. Then community empowerment and support programs are similar staffing costs, volunteer training, infrastructure, IT, and technology. Management and admin is the smaller bucket, so that one's about 15%, and that is things like the really glamorous work that I get to do of payroll taxes and different registrations with different states and counties, filing annual reports, and accounting and those kinds of operations that make a business run and make an organization run. And then fundraising is about 14% of our expenditures, which is partially salaries and partially our databases and the different things we need to raise funds. Like Kristen mentioned, the majority of our clients are on sliding scale. So you can see here, you can see in the other slide actually, that about a quarter of our revenue comes from client payments. That means that we have to fundraise to be able to make up the gap between what it costs to have the business operating and to have our programs operating and what clients can really pay. And then our financial growth, another fancy chart. So while we did double our program capacity and our face support programs more than doubled, and then our clinical programs raised by 57%, guys, our money didn't double last year. So we're hoping that we're going to get there maybe next year, but you can see we've had a really strong, stable growth year over year. We went from a budget of about $130,000. I think this is 7 years ago. I didn't get like 7 years ago. To now we're hoping to be at about $500,000 for this current fiscal year that just started July 1st. So an increase for sure between the 400,000 from last year and the 350 of expenses, but we know the need is great. We've been able to really scale our programs. It's amazing. And now we know, listen, to keep up this growth and to not burn all of ourselves out and to be good examples of practicing what we preach with self-care and having good boundaries and not working 1 million hours a week. We really want to hire more staff and continue to grow our budget so we can continue to grow our impact. So that's our hopes for this next year ahead, and we would love your support and your prayers and everything in between to help us to reach these goals. All right, so future plans and focus areas. So what we plan to do in the next year, which kind of technically started July 1, so that's why we're kind of talking back in the future, back in the past and also present and also future. We relaunched our in-person services in Arlington over the last month or so. So we checked our first box. We're very excited. We actually, our meal support group is almost entirely full. Often when you're starting groups, it takes a little bit of time because even though the need is so great, you know, if you build it, they might not come if they don't know about it. So we still had to do some marketing and do some initial screening, but we know the need is great. And it was really exciting to see that virtual is still going strong. And yet for a lot of people who want to be back in person, they were thrilled to have an option, and they will drive however far they have to drive to get to our office in Arlington. We also plan on creating new virtual clinical programs to serve new geographical regions. I'll talk about this a little bit in a few slides, and continue to build out our scalable model for virtual and in-person services. So the good news is, you know, we went from being an amazing one program organization to now scaling that to be almost up to 8 programs as far as clinical goes, and then up to multiple programs for face support. So we've really grown and scaled, and we're excited about continuing that. And we do want to keep growing here in DC, like we've mentioned, but we know the need is great. Whenever we used to have conferences, which I miss dearly, people, whenever we met clinicians or people in other states, everyone was like, oh my gosh, if you were in my city, if you were here in Milwaukee, I'd send you 5 people tomorrow. Like, hurry, grow, come here. So that's what we're trying to do, both virtually and then again in person. We are hoping to continue to grow across the nation. So spoiler alert, I'll tell you about that in a few slides. And then our other hope is to hire 2 new staff members. So to have a program manager therapist to replace the lovely woman who stepped down a few months ago to stay home with her daughter. And then also an operations and development director to help with general operations as we grow, and also just fundraising and development so we can continue to increase our reach while being scalable and fruitful. So here's our, it looks good on the screen. Here's our fancy slide with the, you know, good old United States right in front of us. So, all right, I feel like we should quiz you guys. I know it's a lot to be like, what are your programs? You just gave us so much information. What are you talking about? It's all right if you don't get it all from your first town hall, come back again. But we did mention our face support programs. The big difference between our face support and our clinical treatment programs are that our face support programs are often run by lay people. So I have no fancy letters behind my name. I wish I was a therapist. I hang out with therapists all day long. It's the best part about my job, and yet I'm not one. So we train people like myself who are recovered, who are alumni, and we do have some interns and clinicians who volunteer as a part of these face support programs. But because we're not doing it as treatment, we're able to reach people anywhere. There's not state licensure issues or insurance issues to navigate. So that's a big reason why we really built out face support when COVID hit, was because there were some waivers that you could see people via telehealth across state lines, but then they expired, or they're kind of tricky, or they're hard to understand. So it's, even if you're a therapist doing a virtual session, it doesn't mean you can treat anyone anywhere. You're still bound by your license that is state by state managed. So the face support has really opened us up to not have to deal with licensure because it's not a licensed program. And that is now, you know, national and really worldwide, depending on your time zone. And we're excited to continue to grow that both virtually and again in person with churches. But with our clinical work, we're, you know, catching up, and there are a few licenses that are starting to gain telehealth reciprocity. So the first ones are the psychologists. Perhaps they're the smartest because they go to school for the longest. No, I'm just kidding. But because there are quite a bit of people who are psychologists, they're able now to be essentially eligible to see people across 26 states. If you're a licensed psychologist and you sign up for this thing called SIPAT, you can then provide telehealth to clients in these 26 states. So we're excited because we have plans next year to hire a few psychologists to run new groups that we can then reach people in these 26 states. So that's what these gray stars are here. So instead of having, oh, this program is run by this therapist who's licensed in Virginia, this program is led by this person who's licensed in California, we'll just have our Breaking Bread meal support program available to these 26 states. And we'll still continue some of our other programs with our local therapists. No one's going away. But this will just help us continue to scale and then clients can funnel through more quickly. It's not like, oh, well, there's a wait list for DC, but there's 2 spots open in Virginia. Oh, but the client lives in DC. So it'll just help us to get clients in more quickly, to maintain staffing, to maintain clients, and to just really broaden our reach without having to hire 26 new therapists overnight. So it'll just really help us figure out slowly how to scale and slowly how to grow our program and grow program reach. So we're really excited about this. Might be more in the weeds than you needed, but those are the details. And then we're also, just like our program that restarted in person here in Virginia, we're realizing in person is definitely here to stay, even though virtual is here to stay. So we're starting to target a few new states and places where we want to find people, identify, train, equip, and raise some money to hire some staff to run on the ground programs. Our next place that we're thinking about is going to be North Carolina. We're really excited about that. We do have a virtual program running in California and some plans underway to do more in California. And then, you know, we'll see how God leads us, but we're hoping for then Texas and Pennsylvania and a few other key target states for in-person programs. But while virtual can grow very quickly, like literally almost overnight, we'll spend a little bit more methodical time doing some groundwork, raising some funds on the ground, and getting to be a part of the local community. Because an interesting little tidbit, even though our face support programs are available to anyone, anywhere, a lot of the clients still come from the Northern Virginia area because we're known here and people are plugged in here. So we do need to market and collaborate with people across the nation, which requires more staff and a bigger team. We can continue to collaborate and to grow. All right, Kristen.
So I know you guys are all wondering how you can get involved and how you can just come alongside us and be a part of this important work. So I am happy to share that information with you. So there are a few different ways that you can get involved. One of the ways is just to, of course, if you're able to donate, to make a one-time gift or a monthly gift to support our clients. As Christy showed, the majority of our funding comes from individual contributions, and this community and our incredible supporters are really the reason that we're able to offer these services. They're the reason that we're able to keep the services at affordable rates for clients, and that we're able to offer these incredible sliding scale scholarships to people who really wouldn't otherwise be able to access treatment at all. Other ways that you can get connected to us is by sharing the Rock Recovery with your workplace. One of the things we do as part of community events is we come into different corporate communities and we talk about mental health. We talk about the relationship with food. We talk about work-life balance, we talk about self-care, and we really try to build relationships with these communities. And our wonderful board member, Anissa, is a great result of that. We connected with her through a workshop that we did with AT&T back when the pandemic started, and now she is an incredible board member. And so we would be happy to come into your workplace and to help equip and educate people just to take care of themselves and to have healthy relationships with food, with themselves and their loved ones. And so I'm happy to answer any questions about that, or you can feel free to shoot us an email if you'd like to get connected. I also mentioned our monthly donor program. We have some incredible people who contribute on a monthly basis to supporting this cause. You can also follow us on social media and share our work. Madeline has done a really good job of just getting us very plugged into social media. And so we are on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, which goes completely over my head. I do not understand Twitter at all. But Madeline does. And so Twitter is one of the places you can get connected to us, as well as LinkedIn. And then just, sharing our work, spreading the message, just helping people know that there are resources out there that they can get plugged into for support. And then lastly, a really easy way, supporting Rock Recovery on Amazon Smile. We are on there. And so through Amazon Smile, you're able to choose a nonprofit that you want to support. I don't know about you guys, I, and really more so my husband, buy something on Amazon like every other day. And so when we do it through Amazon Smile, it's just a really easy way to get a small percentage going towards Rock Recovery, and just a low effort way to support our programs. And then lastly, we just have one more story to share because we love sharing our client stories. One of our clients shared, before Rock Recovery, it was nearly impossible for me to get treatment because I was a student with limited income despite working multiple part-time jobs. Rock is really a lifesaver. And we just love hearing this. I had a note come through my email today about someone who connected with us and couldn't find affordable treatment anywhere, and just really said, you know, Rock saved my life and I don't know where I would be without these services. And it really makes this work so worth it. This is why we do what we do. This is why we write 25-page grants and you know, just lose our hair over putting together virtual galas, because we love being able to help the community. We know the resources are needed. We know that cost is a barrier. We know that accessibility is a barrier, and we know how important community is. And so we are so, so grateful for everything that you guys do, that this community does to just be a part of this work. And so thank you for just coming alongside us and for helping our clients heal.